All right, thank you for joining. Today we'll go over NVDA, and like always, right, it's going to be very straightforward. So, very bullish market. We can see that it's left a good amount of monthly fair value gaps to the downside, right, which can be looked at as future targets. So, after this monthly fair value gap was created, we tested it and then impulsed higher. We had a very big monthly rejection candle here. This is pretty much the same week that I forgot his name, Michael Berry, tweeted out about the AI stuff, and we've just been range bound, slightly bearish ever since. So we do also have a bearish divergence happening because as price is going up, as you can see here, we also have the RSI showing weakness, right? So with that being said, momentum is coming out of the market or strength is coming out of the market while price is still moving higher. So that's typically going to lead to prices to move a little bit lower. And where would those targets be, right? Obviously, it would have to be in this range where a lot of price action did occur before we had this breakout. So that would leave us to at least 150 all the way down to possibly $85. And before you say, oh yeah, there's no way NVIDIA could go that low, it definitely can. You cannot rule that out. This was a bullish order block, which was tested a couple times. You can also call it demand zone 2 as well. Got tested once, price reacted off of that level. It tested that level again, price then again reacted off of that level, impulsed even higher. And now we're slowly just showing some weakness, right? We've pretty much been range bound from 162 all the way up to 215 for the past 8 months. So almost a year, actually, we've been trading at these levels, right? It doesn't seem that long, but when you zoom out and you look at these higher time frame charts, you can realize it's been almost a year we've been trading above $150, right? So let's go ahead and see what's happening next here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove this. I'm going to remove this too as well. We have a little volume gap here, liquidity void happening here at this level, 115 to 120. Very interesting. And as you can see with the weekly, not only did we take out last week's high, we ended this week with a bearish reverse hammer candle, right? So typically when you see those candles, price usually moves down sooner or later. It did happen here, price went up, but eventually it came out and take out those lows. Reversal candle 2 as well. That was the high. Price attempted to break it, didn't quite break it, and then sold off. Same thing here, sold off, and then we're kind of getting that here too as well. It wasn't at the highs, but it is a bearish candle nonetheless, right? So let's go ahead and look at the daily time frame. We could go ahead and place our range lines here, right? I can even make it just white so it's a lot more clear. Excuse me. And yeah, that is the actual range we're just trading in right now. We're pretty much just set at the 50% is what it looks like, or close to it, right? So that's the golden pocket, where we're at right now. And we're close to the 50%, so of the entire range. But we are in a discount of the range too as well. But in my opinion, buyers don't start stepping in until you can clearly see we go below the bottom quadrant of this range. So 176, once you get below 176, buyers start to step in. It happened multiple times over the past 4 to 5 months and push price higher, but not higher than around 192. They do not want to see a $200 NVIDIA anytime soon, right? So where does this lead us for next week? It's a little bit hard to tell, but based on this range bound price action, I would expect continuation to the downside, at least to retest 176 one more time, just because this is very bearish too as well, right? We've had 4 bearish candles, broke out of the range. Now we're seeking lower prices, typically expecting last week's low to be taken out, which is 172. And then whatever it does around here is what we have to pay attention to, right? 165. We've tested two times, and we had a nice bullish reaction, especially because liquidity has just been building up here. I wouldn't be surprised to see price come down, come around here, take out these lows before reversing, and then trading right back to this 192 level again. And worst case scenario, we come back down to this fair value gap, monthly fair value gap, a little bit sooner. Let me go ahead and delete this actually. Maybe we get a little reaction and push to the downside, test this area, fill some gaps before making our way back up again. Yeah, so in my opinion, that is definitely going to be the overall target for now. The main target would obviously be this $85 range. It's a little bit further away, but it's definitely not impossible, right? It's kind of a very similar chart to Bitcoin, actually. So if I was to go and pull up the Bitcoin chart, you can pretty much see here, right? So we had this consolidation, price comes up. Let's go ahead and hide this for now. Rolls over and is now targeting this area, right? And then if you go and look at NVIDIA, very similar price action, actually extremely similar. So I would not be surprised to see that kind of fractal play out here. And let me see if I could actually go ahead and put that here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's copy that there. Let's go to the NVIDIA chart. These fractals always repeat themselves, patterns repeat themselves pretty often. Not sure what's going on here. All right, let's just see what's we're gonna figure this out here. 1 second. Okay. All right, getting there. All right. So as I was saying before, very, very similar pattern it seems like here, right? Right? You have this consolidation, move to the upside, consolidation, moved a little bit higher, and eventually started to roll over. And that's basically where we are at now. All right, here's a little divergence, but nonetheless, same overall target. So yeah, I mean, looking at this, I would expect to see a move down to around the 130 area for NVIDIA, possibly 80 eventually. Because price is just range bound, right? But to keep things very local for now, the smartest thing to do is to, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. Just look at it as a range. We're trading in the middle of the range. We're having a very hard time breaking this high, right? Once this area is turned into support, that's when I would then look to target $212. Not much resistance coming in the way off that target. But until we break over that high, we are just range bound, and we just have to then aim for the lows of the range, right? You really just have to keep things as simple as possible and as straightforward as possible, right? This is the range we're stuck in. So when you're at the lows, you look to long to aim higher. When you're at the highs, you look to short to aim lower. Look for signs of weakness, because at the end of the day, even if you went short, the moment you tapped this high on the 9th, it would have took at least 4 to 5 days before the move started to play out. So you don't want to get into these shorts too early, right? So when you're trading on your demo account, right, not financial advice, you want to wait to see a range form at these highs and then a break to the downside, right? And it did happen a few times. So if we go ahead and even zoom into, let's go to the 2-hour chart here. You can see how many times it did happen, right? Here was a little bit harder to tell, but here was a good example. Right, you had low, high, and then this was your range that was going on, right? So the moment you start to see this bearish price action, you know, I would go short, aiming for the lows here. As you can see, it took a little while. Price even came back inside, but you did get a little bit of a move to the downside. It wouldn't have been the best, most confident trade, but it did trade to at least the 50%. Even the golden pocket of this range, actually, before moving higher once again. So you would have been able to scalp something there. And then same thing with what happens here, right? This was a tighter range. You could have marked this high. You can have seen that this is happening into a range here. You might have gotten stopped out here if you went short after it broke out here. Price came up, but then it broke out again, letting you know that there is weakness. You could have possibly even waited for another additional sign, which was this bearish engulfing candle. Going shorts, then aiming for the lows, and eventually this trade did actually work out, right? Same thing for last week. You wait for a range to form, a high and a low. Then you wait for these lows to be broken decisively, at least with a candle close. And as you can see right now, if you went short, you would be in the profits aiming for these lows once again. So sometimes it really is that simple, right? Just have to plan ahead, see what the next best trade is. And then, yeah, you know, the highest probability of you getting into a profitable, of anyone getting into a profitable long, would be to wait for a price to at least get down to the bottom of this internal range, or at least the overall range lows at 165, right? So 165, in my opinion, is a great place to look for a long, depending on the price action and, you know, what information we get back. Then the best place is to look for a short, you know, which is a put. If trading options, would be to wait for price to get back to around this 190 to 193 area. Then aim back for the lows, or at least wait for 212. But 212 seems very difficult to get to right now. Market does not seem to believe NVIDIA is currently priced at those levels, but they're undecided, and that's why we are currently just range bound at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much it with NVIDIA. Still looking bearish, targeting the lows of 170. Once we reach this 170 area, that's where I would be interested in looking for longs, right? A couple fair value gaps on the 2-hour time frame. Let's see what happens on the 4 actually. 4, there was none. There's one here. You know, you could have done an inverted fair value gap here. But you know, hourly, same thing. You had a fair value gap here. This one would have been a little bit harder because you're still range bound, but if you're just going off of ICT's methods, you know, it's trading, seeing where the fair value gap is, if it's in a discount, or if it's in a premium, it's in a discount. right on the 50%, so it's viable, right? And then you would just aim, enter, aim for the lows, possibly these lows, overall target these lows. Yeah, even on a 30-minute here, if you use this 30-minute, this is close fair value gap. It's right there on the 50, right? But you did get that entry. So yeah, it is something to keep in mind. Let's see here. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the video. Thank you for joining. Looking for 170 to come, or for these highs at 192 to be swept again, to then think about entering my next trade. Thank you for joining. Like and subscribe. Remember to follow me on X. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Take care.